Welcome to Fantasy Smack Talk. I'm Namco sitting here with Dustin, and in this video we're going to talk about your 2010 fantasy football bust slash overvalued, and that's key. All these guys are going to be bust, but some are going to be drafted way too high. Before we get into that, we have a free weekly pick'em on our site this year, and there's a chance to win a trip to Hawaii. We have all of our other rankings, a downloadable top 100 cheat sheet. Get in our forums, we'll rank your team, ask us questions. Alright Dustin, too much talking, let's get into it.
We start with Hines Ward. Now this guy, I don't think he's going to necessarily be a bust, but I think he's going to get drafted too high. We do not think he's going to hardly even come close to his numbers from last year. He's 1 year older. You know, Ben Roethlisberger is going to be out the first handful of games. We say stay away from Hines Ward, let someone else take him.
Next, we definitely have a bust candidate, and that's Dez Bryant. This guy is certainly going to be overdrafted in your league, and the reason why, during this offseason, you've heard his name a million times. He's on the Cowboys offense, but the problem is, he's on the Cowboys offense. There's a ton of other weapons around there for Tony Romo to throw the ball to, and you know, good rookie numbers aren't necessarily translate into good fantasy numbers. The last rookie to have a huge impact was Randy Moss, and he's an old man at this point.
Next, we got Calvin Johnson for the Lions. You know, he had a disappointing year last year, and there is a chance of a bounce-back year this year. But we have seen other experts rank him ridiculously high, top 5 receivers, and we're just not going out on that limb. You know, he is a great receiver, but he still does play for the Lions, and we are just not sold that Stafford's going to be able to give him the ball enough for him to go back to his 08 numbers.
Next, we have Ronnie Brown. Now, he had a pretty good year last season, but he's coming off an injury, and they have Ricky Williams in the waiting, who had played very well when Ronnie Brown went down. Just be a little bit cautious when drafting Ronnie, and especially if you're going to have to spend an early pick on him.
Got another receiver for you in Robert Meacham. You know, people are going to look at those 9 touchdowns, and it's going to get their attention, but he only had 45 catches. So, you know, he's going to have some really big games, but he's also going to have some really bad games. You know, there's not necessarily the kind of receiver you want to have on your team. You know, the Saints just spread the ball around way too much for Meacham to be consistent. We say let him go in your draft.
Next, we have Cedric Benson. This guy was actually a sleeper for us last year, and he obviously hit. In 13 games, he had over 1,200 yards, but also in those 13 games, he had over 300 carries, and that sometimes seems to be the magic number for injuries the following year. He was banged up a little last year, as is, and Bernard Scott stepped in and played very well. And the real problem with Cedric Benson, you're going to have to spend an early second-round pick probably on him. We just don't think it's worth it.
Next, we got all Jets receivers. When I say that, I'm talking Cotchery, Braylon Edwards, and Santonio Holmes. Now, these are 3 good receivers, but the Jets do not throw the ball enough for all 3 of these guys to have value, which means probably only one of them is going to have value. You're going to have to roll the dice and try to guess which one. We say leave all 3 of these guys on the draft board. Let someone else take them.
All right, get ready for the emails. Deshaun Jackson. Not a bust, but certainly overvalued. And I know you think that I'm going to talk about how McNabb's not there, and it's Kevin Kolb at the helm, and it's yet to see if they have the chemistry, which, yes, that is a little bit of the reason, but Mr. Highlight caught a lot of those deep balls, and if you take a few of those away for the 60-yard, 70-yard touchdowns, he actually didn't have that great of a year. We're saying he's going to be going way too early in the draft for you to take a risk. There'll be other elite receivers right around there. Pass on him, take one of those other guys.
Moving on, we got a tight end for you, and Tony Gonzalez out there with Atlanta. You know, he had a decent season, but his numbers just continue to go down, it seems, year after year. And with the tight end position being so deep this year, you don't have to stretch on a guy like Tony Gonzalez. We think his numbers go down again this year. We think he has a decent year, but once that tight end run starts going in the middle rounds, let someone take Tony Gonzalez if you don't have a tight end, and get one of the other tight ends with upside later on.
Then we got Devin Hester. This guy, it seems when it comes to the middle rounds, somebody gets flustered, scrolls down, sees Hester's name, and always drafts him. Don't be that guy. Hester really hasn't broke out to have a huge year since crossing over to a full-time wide receiver. I know Mike Martz is there, but there's a lot of other receivers. Johnny Knox, Armistead, the 2 guys that we actually really like as sleepers. Just don't be the guy taking Hester. It's not worth it.
So that's it for the bust and overvalued. You know, again, these guys are just not necessarily all going to have bad seasons, but we just think for where you got to take them in the draft, they're not worth the gamble. So let someone else take them unless they slip, and then it's okay. But don't forget, all of our other tiers and rankings, our games, our forums, and that cheat sheet you can download off the site. It's going to really be helpful during the drafts. I'm Dustin. This is Brent. See you next time.
Football!